In our last video, we found Dima's cache on a small island off the northwestern coast of the island. Inside was the wind turbine kill switch code. We now have everything we need to kill the people of Far Harbor, but we want options. And to make sure that every avenue is available to us, we need to head to the Harbor Grand Hotel to find the whereabouts of Captain Wabash. Remember, we read on a terminal inside the Nucleus Command Center that Captain Wabash abandoned his post just before the bombs dropped on October 23, 2077, and with him he took the nuclear launch key, making it impossible for the United States military to use the nukes on the sub. We also found a suspicious terminal entry there regarding an upcoming meeting with somebody named Franny. Could Captain Wabash have been meeting this Franny at the Harbor Grand Hotel? To find out, we need to take the road east from Southwest Harbor. Eventually, we see the ruins of the Harbor Grand Hotel towering before us. We hear the voices of super mutants, but we don't see any just yet. We arrived at the side of the hotel. We find a pathway in the middle of the wall leading to a central courtyard. In this alleyway, we find a number of vending machines and an Itotronic, but nothing much of interest. And inside the courtyard, we find ruined cars, a valet kiosk, and some super mutants out front.
What? Who'd better splatter your breath?
The other mutants are attacking us from the rooftops of the building. My character isn't a sniper, she can't reach them from here. So moving to the eastern side of the building, we can go through the front door. We arrive in the lobby of the Harbor Grand Hotel and immediately get attacked.
Can't hide forever. Something in the eye as you die.
Where'd you get to?
We ran up to this upper loft portion. We see tables and chairs here. Directly behind us is a door leading back out to the island. Heading out there to see what this is all about. Yeah!
Hide and seek.
Back inside! Yeah!
Got wise. Hold it.
Okay, did we just clear the entire place? We arrived on a patio outside, but got attacked from all sides. And it seems that some had followed us inside. Looks like we're back on the ground floor now. In a northern hallway, we see that the super mutants had piled up a bunch of blood bags. We can loot a couple of these. Turning around, we can loot some suitcases by a caved-in portion of this hallway, and then hop over the front desk. We don't see any keys hanging on the key rack here. Looks like we'll have to barge our way in. We see a big double door here in the lobby that leads out to the courtyard alleyway that we passed through upon entry. We'll explore the other side of this in a bit. The southeastern corner of this bottom floor was, I think, a place for lectures and events, lots of tables sitting around and a podium on an elevated section. Turning south, we see the side door that we entered. Here we find a coat rack and a bowler hat on a table. We can loot more blood bags. We see the western door is boarded up, and that's the ground floor, so we can head back upstairs to this loft level. We find a hallway immediately to the west leading to the hotel rooms. Looting the corpses and blood bags on this loft level, we see a second doorway heading west, this one leading to a kitchen. We'll go here for now. We find the corpse of a vicious mongrel on a table with his head chopped off with a machete. Looks like the super mutants were digging in. Nearby is an advanced locked explosives box. We can loot a blood bag on a range. We find a Vim in a fridge without a door. And from here we find two paths forward. A doorway leading back out to that western hallway, and a doorway leading into a pantry. We'll go into the pantry first. Most of these boxes and bins, however, are empty. This place has been well looted. The pantry opens up through a big hole in a cement wall into what must have been a walk-in closet, I guess, because this opens up through another hole in the wall into one of these hotel rooms. The bed is wrecked. We find a cigar case on a chest of drawers, and heading around a TV, we can open a door into the bathroom, where we find an occupant. Here sits a garden gnome reading the Boston Bugle and brushing his teeth. Do people really brush their teeth while pinching one off? It just sounds disgusting to me. Regardless, he's missing his toothpaste. It's well out of arm's reach over here on the sink. After looting some ammo and bobby pins from a mirror, we can move back into the room. There's a bathrobe on the ground and minor scrap, and that's about it. We can now go out the hotel room door, which leads to the hallway. But we see that the hallway ends with a wall to the west, and the eastern end is blocked in with furniture, which means that there was a portion on the other side that we didn't get to explore. So heading back into the pantry, through the kitchen, back to the loft, and rounding a corner to the hallway, we can see what was over here, and we notice a staircase leading up. All right, we would have missed that. To the right, we see the door leading back to the kitchen, and all of that furniture blocking up the hallway. We'll take this level by level and explore the rooms on this floor first before heading upstairs. Back in the kitchen, we find a chef hat, and then going through the pantry and that hotel room back into the hallway, we can move to the wall to the west. Here we just find a Vault-Tec lunchbox in a drawer and no other path forward. So to continue, we can move through a doorway to the south leading to yet another hotel room. Here we find a bottle of Vim on a chest of drawers, a suitcase with caps and ammunition on another chest of drawers, some minor scrap, but then in a corner, between the bathroom door and a bookcase, we find a keypad. And then we remember the code to the safe room we found in Dima's memories. We can punch it in. Oh, the bookcase slides away, and the safe room door opens. We find the skeleton of a woman lying on the ground. In her right hand is a 10mm pistol, and in her left is a holotape to Franny.
Franny, it's me. I'm at the Grand, in our old suite, 485130. That's the key to the safe room they installed in case of the bombs. Franny, I need you to come quick. I don't know when they'll be coming for me, so I prepped the boat in case we need to make a rapid exit. But I can't be a part of this nuclear war. I won't do it. And I'm not gonna let anyone else use my submarine to blow up the damn world. Please, Franny, I need you here. If this is the end, let's spend it together.
He took the launch key with him for moral reasons. He just thought it was wrong to be part of a nuclear war. But the nuclear war happened anyway. And had he not taken the launch key, the USS Democracy might have been able to save some of America's cities. At least, according to Rear Admiral Grath. We find the skeleton of Captain Wabash lying on his bed, caps and ammunition in his footlocker next to his army helmet, and a 10mm pistol lying next to his left hand. Did he and Franny commit suicide? After looting an ammo box in the corner, we can move southeast. Here we find pre-war water, some pre-war money, and whiskey on the bureau. And near to a lamp, we find an expert-locked safe. But before I could pick it, I noticed a safe room terminal directly behind me. Accessing it, Harbor Grand Hotel. Hotel Secure Terminal. Thank you for your visit. Connection lost. Messages. You are using auxiliary power. An additional fee has been charged to your room. Keep track of your stay. Don't forget your in-room security holotape when you go. Oh, so there was a hotel room security system here, and it recorded what went on in this room. We find 3 options in the first: contact front desk, but we get an error message. Wait time for next associate. Error. So we can move down to view the bill. Guest name, connection lost. Length of stay, error. Integer for stay max exceeded. Daily rate, $118,764.32 a day. Includes taxes and fees. Oh, that's nice. Estimated bill, error. Integer for bill max exceeded. Holy cow, where did Captain Wabash get that kind of money? That is quite a hotel bill. And finally, we can play the hotel room security tape. We'll eject it and play it from our Pip-Boy.
Hey! Hands where I can see them. Now, where is the key?
Franny, put the gun down. What exactly do you think you're going to accomplish?
My job. You're going to give me that key, and I'm going to get paid.
Hey, the world's over. Are you really...
Scream all you want, Arnie. Everyone's been evacuated. It's just you and me. Now focus. Where is the key?
Rot in hell.
We can do this all day, Arnie.
Fine. The hell's it matter? It's on the boat. Fringe Cove docks. Combinations 44, 6, 75, 12.
Now, was that so hard? So long, Captain. Now where the hell's the release to this...
Sorry, Franny. You're stuck with me.
Captain Arnold Wabash wasn't a traitor, but Franny was. At least, I think we can presume so. She wanted the launch key so that she could get paid. Who else would want the launch key to a nuclear submarine but the Chinese? Franny was a communist Chinese spy, and she had been using Captain Wabash this whole time to gain access to the nuclear launch key for the USS Democracy. They didn't commit suicide. Franny tortured and mortally wounded Captain Wabash to get the location of the nuclear launch key, and then Captain Wabash killed her before she could leave. But the nuclear launch key isn't here. It's at Fringe Cove docks. Well, before we head that way, we can finish exploring the hotel. I thought we could unlock the safe from the terminal, but apparently not. So picking this expert lock, we find a bunch of ammunition and a small stash of bottle caps. On a shelf above it, we find some boxed foods and cigarettes. There's a novice-locked ammo box in the corner. And in the bathroom mirror, we find some bottle caps, ammunition, and bobby pins. That's it for this hotel room. Heading out, we can retrace our steps through the kitchen and back into the hallway to take the staircase up to the second floor. This puts us out in another hallway. There's a dead end to the south. The room across the hall is boarded up so we can move north. At the end of the hallway...
Someone there!
We killed these mutants by the elevator. After looting an ice and a cigarette machine, we can move back to the hallway to see if we missed anything. But the path to the west is boarded up. All we find here is a suitcase. So turning back around to move east, we see that the hallway continues up a rubble ramp to the third floor. But peering right, we see a hole in the wall that leads to the bathroom of another room. The bathroom is empty, but we find a door to the west that leads back outside to the island. We arrive in the hotel room and see that it's been exposed to the outside through a hole in the wall. The mutants have sandbags filling up this hole, but the room is unoccupied. The mutant with a minigun that we saw from outside must have been one of the ones that ran inside to attack us earlier. We find a wooden crate in the corner with chems inside and an ammo box by the sandbags. We see that the sandbag barricade overlooks the fountain at the eastern side of the hotel. But that's it for this room, so we can head back inside and turn right to go up the rubble ramp to the third floor. Immediately turning around, we see a darkened space back there. If we skirt the edge of this broken floor, we find one room to the right that we can explore. Inside, we find a devastating scene. The skeletons of two women clutching each other in death, one of whom is holding a bouquet of flowers. There's a bottle of wine and a shot glass on a nearby console. Not sure who takes shots of wine. In a suitcase, we find bottle caps and bobby pins. There's a teddy bear on the floor next to a radiator, and another suitcase with more bottle caps and bobby pins. But that's it for this room, so heading back to the hallway, we can continue east. The hallway north is blocked in with rubble, so we can head to the end of the hallway where we find an exit door leading out to the south. We arrive at the bottom of a staircase. Under the stairs is one toolbox, and heading up the staircase, we arrive on the roof.
The detection system must be on the fritz.
This sniper's roost has one explosives box, and moving across the ramp to the other, we find one novice-locked ammo kit with a bunch of ammunition inside. Oh, there's another. Racing down, we can head across the roof to get him. Moving to the southern end of the roof, we come under fire from more mutants on the ground, but there's no staircase or a way to get down there but to jump. Though we do find a broken corner and what looks like a few more ruined rooms down there. Hopping down, we land on the edge of one room that's completely wrecked. Hopping down to the next, we find a broken bed with a Jangles the Moon Monkey lodged within its supports. He's just sort of hanging out in the middle there with his head peeking out. Dropping down to the bottom room, we find a broken bed under the broken floor and a bookcase against the corner with scrap on the ground and fancy lad snack cakes on the shelves. There's no way out but the way we came, so hopping up floor by floor, we can return to the rooftop. Heading north then west back towards the door, we can finish clearing the rooftop.
Gonna be a good fight!
Here we find a scrap staircase going down into the ruins of a hotel room below. Here we find a wooden crate and a hole in the ground going even further down. But we don't find much, just some scrap, an empty cash register, and a bottle of bourbon. We see that most of the furniture from this room has fallen out a hole to the west. Looks like that's a safe way down, but since we are in our power armor, we can jump back up to finish exploring the rooftop. There's a boardwalk to the southeast, which allows us to reach a lower portion of the rooftops. Here we find ladders going up to the main roof, and more boardwalks leading to more rooms on this level. In one, we find an advanced locked wooden crate. This room connects to another room where we find a rubble ramp leading down to the rooms below. In the bathroom of this lower room, we find a skeleton in the shower. There's a first aid kit by the toilet and a bunch of scrap and loot in the dresser. This leads to a hallway where we find a staircase leading down. On this mezzanine level, we find a few more containers and a hole in the wall to the northeast, leading to a patio overlooking the courtyard. We could jump down from here, or we could turn around, go back to the staircase, and take it all the way down to the ground floor. Here we find a cigarette machine and a Nuka-Cola machine. There's a bunch of Nuka-Cola in the machine, and then by a tipped-over couch, we find a first aid kit and an ammo box. Here we find a door leading back outside. Well, we've explored the hotel, now to explore the courtyard and the pool. We find a break in the fence leading to the pool, and a super mutant hound, just chillin'. Southeast of the pool, we find a number of archways hanging over a platform the mutants had built overlooking the harbor. We see a fire on the sea, but we are too far away from Southwest Harbor. That can't be Faraday's delivery ship on fire. I wonder what it is. Peering down, we see a broken pipe sticking out of the ground. Hopping down in our power armor, we find a skeleton shoved into the pipe. At his feet is a note. The Drain Corpse note. They're always watching. You'd think they'd take a break or something, but they just keep throwing them over one after the other, laughing like children playing a game of tag. I was lucky getting this far, but even if I survive the drop, they'll spot me for sure. Should I risk it? Throwing them over, they're always watching? What could he be talking about? Near to the note is a cap stash. Sounds like this poor soul decided not to jump and either died to a stray bullet or died from exposure. Hopping down, we can try to see what he was talking about when he said throwing them over, and when we reach the shore, his comments immediately become clear. In the shallows, we find a skeleton, and near to this another, and then another. Continuing along the shore, we find skeleton after skeleton, hanging on poles and spikes, draped over stones. The super mutants must have been throwing people off that platform we found near to the pool. The big question now is, were these recent kills? Or perhaps the skeletons of the hotel guests they found when they took over the hotel? After all, they are in pre-war clothing, and one of them was even in a military uniform. Looking out to sea, we again find the water on fire. I really wanted to see what this was all about, so swimming that way, we see a number of wrecked boats, but most of these are wooden boats, sailboats, rowboats. Nothing with a motor or an engine, certainly nothing that can explain burning fuel on the water after all of these years. But then, exploring the rocks near to the fire, we finally understand. On top of a nest of seaweed, we find two gnomes. holding Molotov cocktails with more lodged in the seaweed. And behind them is an explosives box filled with frag grenades. Could these gnomes have started the fire? Was this all just a game to them? Have they been throwing Molotov cocktails at these ships? Exploring the wreckages, we see a number of skeletons all over the place, and then nearby we find a still floating boat with 2 gnomes hauling in a net. Tangled in the net is a man's skeleton. One of the gnomes wears some eyeglasses, and littering the floor of this boat are human bones. There is a basket at the stern of the ship, and instead of fish, we find more human bones. These gnomes are fishing for human remains. But the posture of this skeleton almost looks like he was climbing into the boat. Do these skeletons reanimate? But then again, we are talking about gnomes starting fires with Molotov cocktails. Nothing about this makes a lick of sense. A much more likely explanation for the oil slick on fire is the wreckage of a nearby barge. It was hauling a bunch of shipping containers. It didn't have a sail, it likely ran on fuel. Many of these shipping containers have been cut open and converted into makeshift ramps and shelters. But as interesting as this is, we don't find anything here. Well, we got a bit sidetracked there. Hopping back into our power armor, we can leap atop the pipe and then jump back up atop that platform the mutants used to throw over the skeletons. Heading back towards the pool, we can hop in to explore it. We do find a few skeletons still here, and in the middle of the pool, an end-of-dungeon steamer truck right next to a throne where we killed that super mutant hound. On the eastern end of the courtyard, we can go up some stairs to find that patio where we came outside at the beginning of the episode. This is where we came under fire from all of those mutants. Back in the courtyard and moving northeast, we see that alleyway where we arrived, and turning southeast, we see the 2 double doors we saw in the hotel lobby earlier. Just outside, we find a car and a bunch of luggage, and sure enough, these double doors lead back to the hotel lobby. Back outside, we can move northeast towards the fountain. At the top of the fountain, we do find some blight, and we get attacked by a mutant to the southeast. Mutants attacked us from this nearby dock. We find a chair here next to a big hole in the dock, and dipping into the hole, we find a bunch of cages. Inside the cages are human remains, and perhaps now we understand the source of some of these bodies. The super mutants were putting people in the cages and then dipping them in the water, either to drown them or to feed them to wildlife from the sea. Hopping down, sure enough, we find another cage with a human skeleton inside lying on the ground, and near to it is a cap stash. Once sea life stripped these skeletons of all flesh, the mutants would then toss them off the plank towards the pipe on the other side. Back to the dock, we find a picnic table with a couple of skeletons and 1 piece of daddy-o. And when done, we can take the road north to head towards Fringe Cove docks. But before we get very far, we again come under fire. Mutants from a house near to the hotel. We find the statue bust of a woman sticking out of the ground by an American flag. In the house itself, all we find is a whiskey. Back to the road, if we continue to follow it, we stumble upon a trapper den built atop a delivery truck. This is an unmarked location on the road close to Harbor Grand Hotel. By one of the sandbag barricades, we find an ammo box, a number of human skeletons all over the place. Climbing up into the shack, we find a chem box on a crate next to a barrel with a lantern and a trailer key. Hey! Heading across a ramp and taking a staircase to the top level, we find another ammo box. Then hopping down, we can go to the back of the delivery truck and use the trailer key to open the back. Here we find a cap stash on a crate and a steamer trunk filled with ammunition and explosives. Now let's see if we can get to Fringe Cove docks without any more distractions. which is a tough one. It's clear on the other side of the island. The closest ports of call are the Brooks Head Lighthouse and the church where we found the heretic. Along the way, we find a ruined house and another crate with a skull, toothbrush, and toothpaste, just like we found in the last episode. But this can't be the same crate. That one was on the island near to Rayburn Point. So someone was really practicing his or her toothbrushing skills on skulls scattered across the island. This house has an ammo box at the bottom floor and a duffel bag being clutched by a skeleton on the top floor. At last, we arrive at Fringe Cove docks. We see a lot of trucks and heavy equipment on the other side of this rusted fence. We do find a gap in the fence, and on the other side, a bunch of mire lurks.
Looks clear.
Exploring the parking lot reveals nothing, no containers, nothing of interest. But nearby we do find a garage. On top of a cabinet is some jet, and we can pass through a doorway to explore the docks just outside. We find a number of containers stacked up here. Hopping on up, in one we find another human skeleton lying on the ground, being cared for by another gnome. This one is again wearing sunglasses and holding a stim pack standing atop a first aid kit. Looks like this guy was practicing medicine on this poor soul without a license. How dare you, garden gnome? You're a doctor. You should know better. Oh. Then after looting a wooden crate, we can head back down to the docks. Now let's see. Arnold Wabash said that the nuclear launch key was on a boat. We could go southeast towards the big building or southwest towards a boat. Well, that's likely where the key is found. Let's explore the building first. Heading through the garage, we see that we can't get in this way. Well, unless we were to jump over. But we see a break in the fence to the north, and we can go around it to open the front door, which is locked with a master lock. After picking it, we see that the building has all but collapsed into the sea, and we find mire lurks. Looks like there's quite a lot to explore under here. Back to the building. In the southeastern corner, we can loot an end of dungeon steamer trunk, and inside we find the Fringe Cove dock key. Looks like this could have been used to open that front door we picked. Got him. I guess the way we were supposed to get in was to come up from underneath. Well, since we're here, we'll explore it the wrong way, I suppose. We see some platforms above. Hopping up there in power armor, we find a dismembered skeleton with the skull still smoking a cigarette. And on the opposite end, we find a wooden crate. Here we can pass out a hole in the wall to hop down to the ground by way of the roof, and a bunch of rowboats being hauled on a truck. Moving south back to the dock, we find a boathouse which is also collapsed into the sea. Moving southwest, we see a van unloading its contents into this hole. In the back of the van is a tool case and a pink flamingo. Taking the dock all the way to the water, we can cross over to a ruined boat, and inside we find a cooler. From this point, we can peer out to sea. Off in the distance, we see a rocky point peeking out of the waters. I want to be thorough, so we can hop out of our power armor to explore. There are 2 sailboats here, but nothing in either, so leaping into the ocean, we can swim west towards the point. Soon, we see shipping containers on the ocean floor, and then... What? Mannequins float to the ocean surface from a ship below, heading to the surface. Woo-hoo. Oh, that is far more disturbing than it should be. I don't like it. Oh, I don't like this at all. Diving down, we find the ruins of this boat. There's nothing in the crow's nest but a cooler with razor grain inside. We can explore the shipping containers that these mannequins must have come from, but they're all empty now. Moving up to the cabin and... peering through the window, we see more of these mannequins. Heading through the door and turning left, we find a skeleton on the ground near to a first aid kit. He's splayed out, lying face down, as if he was struck from behind. And behind him, another skeleton clutching a whiskey bottle. What could have scared them so much that whiskey was the only solution? Turning west, we see that mannequin. And wait a minute, he's holding something. Is that a board? And he's holding it above a human skeleton draped over a crate. On the ground beneath the hand of the skeleton is a note. These mannequins. I can't wait to drop these damn mannequins off. The crew is starting to claim that they're hearing weird noises from the cargo. Maybe they're just playing pranks on me? Whatever, we're almost there. But despite being almost there, he never made it because these mannequins came to life and murdered him. This one's still frozen in time, wielding a board. On the other side of the crate is an ammo canister and a wooden crate. Now, what did the note say? It said that there were more in the cargo hold. Swimming out, we can try to find this cargo hold. We find a skeleton splayed out at the stern of the ship, and then moving towards the lower floor. Yoo-hoo! No! 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 Don't do that to me. We find more mannequins peering out of this room. In the back of it, we just find a couple of coolers. But I think I'm done. Yep, this is enough for me. Don't like it. Don't like it. Swimming to the surface, we see a few more things on the horizon. One is a sailboat tied to a buoy. We can climb aboard using a shipping pallet. We find the skeleton of a man at the stern of the ship peering into the water, and below him, we see the ruins of a vessel beneath the waves. We find another skeleton at the bow, near to a meat hook, hanging in the riggings, and a first aid kit. Diving down, we can explore that wreckage. Must have been a passenger vessel. We find a skeleton near to a suitcase, and then we can follow a trail of crates and bodies leading to the broken half of the vessel, these two reaching out to each other in death. When done exploring, we can head back to Fringe Cove docks to try and find this nuclear launch key. On the way, we find yet another boat, this one listing in the water. Don't know how it's still afloat, possibly tangled in the seaweed. Inside, we find an unlocked box safe with caps and ammunition inside. Back on the shore, we can hop back into our power armor, move to the boathouse, and hop down through the hole in the floor to explore under these docks. Here we find another crate with a skull, a toothbrush, and toothpaste. Exactly how much practice did this guy need? He must have some pearly whites. Looks like we've killed all the mirelurks already, so hopping back up, we see a shipping barge to the south and a number of shipping containers. Using our jetpack, we can hop into one. In the back of this one, we find 2 cap stashes. But that's it for the cargo ship. Most of the rest of these shipping containers are inaccessible. We can hop into the water, where we find another opened one with a duffel bag filled with pre-war money, and a wooden crate filled with Molotov cocktails and Radaway. But that's it on the seafloor. We can hop onto a nearby ship that is sinking into the sea. Heading into the main level, and moving to the bow of the ship, we find 2 duffel bags, both of which are filled with pre-war money. Hopping up to the top room, we find a wooden crate with Rad-X and a first aid kit on the wall. We find a skeleton still here swabbing the decks. In the crow's nest, we find another skeleton and another wooden crate filled with caps and ammunition. But still, no nuclear launch key. But it has been 200 years. Perhaps the ship we need lies at the bottom of the sea. Hopping out of our power armor, we can dive into the water, and sure enough, we find a sunken ship. And in the cabin of the ship, we find a safe on the ground that we can unlock with the combination we got in the hotel. Inside, we find everything you need to survive a nuclear apocalypse. Blamco mac and cheese, bourbon, pre-war money, and a nuclear launch key. We now have everything we need to detonate the nuclear explosive still on board the USS Democracy. We need to make a choice. Do we destroy the nucleus? Or do we first confront Dima about this? Or do we let High Confessor Tectus know about the launch key? After all, the children of Adam have been looking for it, but there are so many other choices we could make. We could destroy the people of Far Harbor, or we could tell them Dima's deep and dark secret. We'll pick up with this dilemma in my next episode. I publish new videos each and every week on my channel, so if you don't want to miss that episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have and you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new video and live stream that I publish. I've got a brand new shirt in the shop. Glory to Atom! If you agree with High Confessor Tectus that the people of Far Harbor must pay for their heresy, then you can find this design on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. It comes on other products as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, stickers, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. YouTube members and Patreon patrons are becoming increasingly more important as YouTube continues to make platform changes that make the future of YouTube monetization uncertain. So to all my members and Patreon patrons, thank you so very much. You make these videos possible, but more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new videos.